Good morning to you all. This is Chan101. Those of you who have heard me speak, you know that if I talk about Chan101, I will talk about it with a kind of kicking it up a notch so that it's not just simply for beginners, but it is something for everyone. And so for advanced practitioners, there's two things that you learn from this. One of them is how to talk about Chan101, so you can use these techniques with your groups. And the other one is you may find something a little bit deeper than that you missed the first time listening to Chan101, simply because now your eyes are a little bit more open. When we, as speaking, let's say teacher to teacher, you don't copy the style of the teacher. You use your own personality and your own events in your life to develop your own style, which fits your personality. And when we do that, then we are more likely to deliver a sincere presentation. When I was first starting out, I was unsure of myself. The one thing that was probably pretty good with me was that I realized that there is a potential to make mistakes when we are presenting the Dharma. And this is something that I do not want to make a mistake so that it would mislead people. So before I would start, I would always ask Manjusri and the Avalokiteswara, Wenshu Pusa and Wanchin Pusa to just take over my body, take over my tongue and my mind, so that whatever came out was not coming out of the mouth, the mind, and body of Gilbert, but that was something that was true. And I did this for many, many years, just simply with respect to the Dharma and the Buddha and the Sangha, that everything has to be presented in a proper way, in a correct way. And the longer I've practiced, the more I've found that it's very critical that we understand things from the right view. When I was in kind of the quote unquote ceremony where Shifu had made me a Dharma heir, he stressed to me the importance of right view. And this is critical, because if we do not have right view, then what we teach people is only halfway. And in fact, we cannot really get out of here or find out that there's no place to get out of if we do not have right view. I will talk about that a little bit more. This first class is kind of like the beginning of a symphony, and we have all the things that are going to happen in the symphony kind of there, and we are presenting all the different points. In the later classes, what I will do is I will add some meat to those bones, but I wanted to give you an idea from the beginning where we're headed with this. And actually in an hour to talk about Chan, even in the beginning stages, is very, very difficult. I would try to avoid rushing through the material, and so we'll see how this goes. So we say, what is Chan? And I would say, if somebody asked me that, if the conditions were right, ask me a question. This is a direct response. It's a functional response. So a direct response is showing, ask me a question. What is Chan? Is activity. It's functional. It shows precisely what Chan is, that it's the action of the mind. And in that response, something very incredible, which is it's divested of doctrine. Now, it does not mean that we don't study doctrine, but in the response, the doctrine is put aside and the mind is free to express mind clearly and easily without any kind of a hesitation, without any kind of having to go back and explain what the doctrine is behind it. It is just in this moment what is happening. And that is what struck me as being something that attracted me to Chan, that we have an ability in our mind to obtain this raw feed of information in our environment and then process that information in a way that is harmonious, not to the self, but to the community at large. And we'll talk a little bit further in a few moments about the community and the clan that you belong to. But this simplicity of Chan was something that I had heard from the first time I listened to Shifu give a lecture. And at that point in time, I had been studying with many different masters in different kinds of ways, and especially in Chi Gong. But when I heard Master Sheng Yen talk, he didn't talk about power. He didn't talk about skills. He didn't talk about anything. He just talked about life. It was very interesting. Just talking about life as if he was just sitting there on somebody's front porch and just swinging and just talking to you and thinking that he's just talking to me. This is so simple, so clear. It was then that I knew, it rang clear as a bell to me. This is something that was missing. It was missing in my practice. And what it was that was missing in my practice was wisdom, this idea of wisdom, that to see the world with wisdom, so easy, so kind of Forrest Gumpish in terms of looking at it, but not from a sense of a diminished mind, but a mind that was unlimited. And when you heard him speak, there was a clarity there. There's no pretenses. Sometimes people, they act enlightened, and it's probably the hardest thing that you can do is to act enlightened, because you have to protect yourself all the time. You have to say, oh, you know, this person, he's enlightened. So you say, I'm enlightened. And so you have to walk around very carefully so you don't look like you're acting unenlightened. But it's very funny because Chan is something so natural. Some actions that are taken by someone may look stupid or may look very unorthodox, but it's simply a natural reaction to whatever is happening. But if you're trying to act enlightened, you're always trying to act as if you're pure. Don't do that. This is not the way. And you have to put that down from the very beginning. If you don't put that down, you'll have a difficult time in making progress, because you'll be carrying this big sack over your shoulder of enlightenment. And if you don't have it, you'll have this giant sack that's empty that you want to put enlightenment into. One of the main points in terms of, I want to see the people. One of the main points in our practice is Pratika Samapada. And I actually have that here. See if you can see it. Pratika Samutpada. Pratika Samutpada stands for causes and conditions never fail. This is the essence of Chan. When we have this kind of an understanding of things, we understand that everything that is appearing in mind is there on purpose. It is not appearing by some form of an accident, but is appearing precisely in this way. And we'll look at this a little bit more deeper until you realize that this causes and conditions never fail is in fact mind itself. And if we look at that, it is mind. It enables all of these appearances to happen. But now I'm kind of getting you a little bit deeper than I want to get you at this point. Suffice it to say, the Chinese have a saying that if you plant a melon seed, you get a melon. And that's about as easy as you can get it. And that's pretty much what Master Sheng Yen said in his public lecture that I listened to, that made so much sense to me. And you just kind of think and say, why didn't I think about this before? This is like so simple and so incredible to hear. But it's so simple. And that's Chan. We as sentient beings, we fabricate our own gods to praise them and then to blame them as well. God, why have you forsaken me? We never take responsibility for our own actions. But the truth here, and little by little, these words will begin to ring clear to you. The truth is that this very mind that you're using is the Buddha mind, is beyond the sentient beings, including gods. I'm not saying, that Gilbert said everybody's a god. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying everybody's a Buddha. And but we have to discover that. And that's the part that's difficult, is making that transition to leave this world and to understand what this means. So what is this Chan all about? We as Chan practitioners, we perform mind work. Mind work is the study of how the mind works. And this is important to us because we are not able to really understand what is happening to us. We look at our lives and we try to give meaning to the life from seeing the things that are appearing. Where do these things appear? To us in the sentient world, we think this world appears like a TV program in front of us. And that what we're doing is we're processing this and we're serving kind of like the director and the producer of all that is appearing. But it's not that way. The other day I saw a program in which there was a group of people that were in a reality setting, and in this reality setting they were like Greek gods and goddesses. And then in this reality setting, what happens is that there is a director and a producer behind the scenes and the cameraman and everything else. When you see that, you think, oh, well, that's it. But watching the movie, you realize that the director and producer in this program were also part of this TV program. And it's difficult for us to turn the corner and see that, because we can look at things and see, this is not real, this is not real, this is not real. But I see that. And so I want to go around and nullify everything, say that it's empty, but I don't want to turn the camera towards myself and then nullify that. So we don't see that very, very clearly. And there is in part a fear there, a fear that if we turn the camera towards ourselves, that we will disappear. It is not in this way, but we have that fear because the ego is so strong. It's so ingrained in us that we can't see that. When we sit to meditate, what happens is that we cannot meditate properly. When we sit to meditate, we're sitting, I am holding my method. I want my mind not to think of anything. Don't think, just the method. don't think, just the method. This is very counterproductive. And the actual practice is more counterintuitive to that, which is that when we sit to meditate, we just simply sit. Thoughts are going to arise in the mind. It's natural. External sounds and input are going to arise. All of that is natural. They do not bother us. We just simply are observing the method. And we'll get into that a little bit later as well. But what I want to do is give you kind of an overview as to where we're going with this. Some of this may be a little bit difficult if you've been sitting and practicing in meditation and you believe you want to stop your mind from thinking. This is not necessarily the correct way. The ancients, they beseeched us, they asked us, please turn your mind's eye inward. But what does that mean when we say to turn the mind's eye inward? It means that we're no longer looking out at the world and trying to make sense of it from the world itself and the different components of it. What we're doing is we're doing mind work to see how this appearance came into being. And so when we see things in this way, we're not trying to polish up the environment in this way. What we're doing is we're seeing what needs to be done to change things around. But now we know there's a difference. It's the difference between using a broom from the side that you're holding on to the part that sweeps and trying to clean everything up with the stick part, the end of it, and you're not going to be able to do much cleaning. But turning the mind's eye inward, then you have the broom, and now the broom is in the proper way, just to sweep, 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 and it sees clearly, sweep, sweep. What is it sweeping? It is not sweeping the appearances. The appearances, they're naturally there. They're there. If you want to say, I don't want this person that's very antagonizing, I want them just to disappear. You cannot do that. But what you can do is make your emotional attachment to the situation disappear. You do that via mind work by observing and sweeping away those emotional attachments, those passions, what in the Yogacara school they call klesis, these vexing passions that arise. Turning the mind's eye inward, then we see correctly that all that appears before us is precisely there because we put it there. We put it there as an individual ego, personality, or life and being, and we put it there collectively. It is not by some form of mystery why the United States has so many COVID cases, because we don't mask. We don't take care of things. We think we can go in a group and we can talk to people without a mask. Sometimes I'm in my office and the people are there and they have the mask like this. They think wearing the mask like this is okay, or like this. But when we don't do the things in the right way, then of course our numbers are going to be high, especially compared to Asian countries. This is not a mystery. We see it. We are directly responsible for everything that appears. It's simple. And this was Shifu's lesson from long ago. And I was going, yes, you know, you want to blame this person and blame that person and blame this situation and blame that. Or even worse yet, you go, it's all going to disappear. If I just don't do anything, it's going to disappear. Now I ask you, in your life, how many times when action was needed that you were able to wish things to disappear? Doesn't work that way, right? So mind work is mind work. We know why things are appearing. It's clear, so very, very simple. Chan is incredibly simple. And Chan can also be very complex, doctrinally complex. And we'll go into that later on as well. But the first part is just to understand that we turn the mind's eye inward. We see things as they are appearing naturally. They naturally appear. Why? Because of pratika samappada, causes and conditions never fail. So we start here. This is our basic premise, but it's also the deepest premise because pratika samappada is not other than the Buddha mind. Master Ling Chi said that in our practice, we should not be dazzled by the at the sensory gates. This means that when we are in our lives, we can enjoy things, we can enjoy music, we can enjoy food, we can enjoy things, but we shouldn't cling to them so much. And even more so, when we are meditating, we shouldn't have an expectation that we're going to see anything, that an expectation that this color is more important than other colors. Oh, I saw the red color, you know, then what are you going to do? Well, next one, maybe I might see purple or whatever you see. It's very, very sad because when we are trying to look at this, and many of you who are advanced practitioners have done this. I guarantee you, you've done that. And if you haven't done that, then you would, you're probably not being truthful about that. But it's okay because I went through that myself. You're looking for some kind of a special experience, something that you can take off your cushion and say, wow, this was worth sitting. Because when you sit and then you finish and you just go, well, so what? I didn't get anywhere. I didn't do anything, you know. And then you begin to question, your ego's going, you know, all you did was just make your bottom flat. You know, we could have been watching TV. We could have been watching Dancing with the Stars or America Got Talent or whatever it is. We could have been doing something, but you just sat there wasting time. So your ego and your personality, it begins to undermine your practice because you do not see that. You do not see these passions welling up inside of you and turning you away from the true practice. To practice in meditation is very easy. You just have to follow the method and the instruction. But we want something out of it. We want to have some kind of a experience. And it's like, well, if we go to work, we get paid. That's why we do it, because we get paid. So I want something out of it. And if we cook a meal, we eat. You know, why would I cook a meal if I'm not going to eat? And so you see things from this kind of a viewpoint, this idea of subject and object. When you are engaged in meditation with this mind of subject and object, it cannot work. You are watching the method. You are expecting the method is going to produce something. And in fact, later on, you demand it. I want this method to do something for me. I want to become enlightened. And if I don't become enlightened, I'll play like I'm enlightened. So you're walking around. Don't bother me. I'm enlightened. I don't need to practice anymore. I'm enlightened. This is foolishness. Or the reverse, which is also ego. I will never get enlightened. Why should I even be bothered with sitting on a cushion? This is just a waste of time. Those are two extremes. We know from the Madhyamika school and Nagarjuna's teachings that everything is in the middle way. And in this middle way, when we practice, we see things just exactly as they are. We know, and we we have faith in the practice, that if we practice in this way, it will be the proper practice. We do not have to know how far we have to go or how far we've come. Shifu, he used to say that the practice was like climbing a mountain that at the top was shrouded in fog. So fortunately, though, it work. No. And as you're climbing up the mountain, the top part is in fog. So as you enter into the fog, you do not know where the peak of the mountain is, but you know with each step as you're climbing up the mountain that you will eventually get to the top. You have that faith, and you know the direction because the steps are a little bit difficult to take. If all of a sudden you're in the fog and it's going so easily, then you know you're going down the mountain. But when you follow in the path and you go up, that's all you need. So you have to have faith that you can climb up the mountain. In our practice, one of our sutras, a Mahayana Prajnaparamita Sutra, this is kind of the study part. The Diamond Sutra, its name is the diamond cutter that removes all doubts. So remember that it's not just simply the Diamond Sutra. It's like a sharp diamond that can cut through anything. It removes all doubts. And in that, the part that made me look at the world in a different way was the very end. And in the very end, it ends this way. All that you should think of this fleeting world is a dewdrop on a leaf, a morning star, a flash of lightning in a summer cloud, a bubble in a stream, an illusion, a phantasm, a dream. So when we look at this in this way, what we see is that this world is a dream. So when I reached that point, for the first time I had read the Diamond Sutra, I was stunned. First, by the beauty of the verse. Second, by its simplicity and deepness in terms of that, seeing things and using these analogies of a morning star. If you've ever seen a morning star, if you take your eyes off of it, it's gone. If you see a dewdrop on a leaf, as soon as the sun rays hit it, it's gone. A bubble in a stream, most certainly, it is gone. Try to catch a flash of lightning in a summer cloud. It's gone so quickly, this quickly. Sometimes when I see monastics, I will give them a fossil. And the fossils I give them are 600 million years old. And I give it as a symbol from the heart. This world is so fleeting. Our time here is so short, especially in comparison, just in this fleeting world, in the samsaric world of 600 million years. Try to fathom that. But in that 600 million years, it passes by that quickly. Because this part is not real. The idea of the time and the space, which it gets us to the esoteric aspect of the practice. Now, there's two aspects of the practice. One of them is exoteric with an X. Exoteric is studying the principles, studying the doctrine. And if we study it very, very well, we'll become a very great scholar. We may not even become a Buddhist scholar. We may just become a scholar. Sometimes when I read doctrinal papers and more advanced study, I can tell whether the author has had some kind of an experience or not, a realization or not. Or I can even tell if they're Buddhist or not Buddhist, or if they're from the Theravadan school or the Mahayana school, because of their slant. They're all very well prepared papers, but sometimes they're missing something. They're missing the esoteric. They can only see what is written on the paper, but they cannot see that which is beyond the paper. Our practice is one that goes beyond words and phrases. And the Diamond Sutra let us know that in a very interesting way. Diamond Sutra says, what do you think, Subhuti, if there was the Ganges River and all the sands of the Ganges River were Ganges rivers, and of all of these collective sands, they turned into treasure chests that were given to the poor? Would the merit of this be very great? And Subhuti said, of course it would be very great. That's an uncountable sum of wealth that one gives to poor people. And then the Buddha said, not as much as reciting 4 lines of this Diamond Sutra to someone. What? How? How is this? How can this be? What? You have to stop right there and go, wait a second. What is he talking about? He's speaking in a language I don't know. How does that even make any sense? 4 lines of the sutra are more powerful than that? How can this possibly be? Or when they talk about the billions of Buddha worlds, and we say, oh yeah, they're just, they just like to exaggerate and put a big number out there. But the reason they put the big number out there is to stop you right in your tracks and say, wait a second, you think that you know what reality is. The only reality you know is apparent reality from this world. Like some TV actor that's walking along a stage, and that's his reality, oblivious to what's going on outside of that stage. But this is the esoteric. This is the power of the mind. We need to be able to tap into this power. Somewhere along the line, I probably exceeded Chan 101, but this is really Chan 101, because if you read the treatises of the masters, they will say at the very end, now that you know these are the essentials for the beginners of a Chan student, now you can practice. Without knowing this, you cannot practice. You play to practice, but you really have no idea even what key that everything is being played in. I'm not going to tell you why that's so great in terms of the Diamond Sutra. I want you to contemplate what that means. Why is 4 lines of the sutra greater than all of these gifts? This is very, very important that you're able to observe this. It's not an easy thing to do, and you cannot see it or feel it externally. It has to come from the heart. But try to feel that. Then you will be able to tap into what the Diamond Sutra is all about. It's a wisdom sutra, but it has an incredible meaning to it, which is in the esoteric. That's why it's not an easy one. Even if you talk about the Vatamsaka Sutra, the Lotus Sutra, the Lankavatara Sutra, those are very complex sutras. But the Diamond Sutra is written in a very secret script, the esoteric. This is where you have to extend your heart to, so that you can tune into Chan. As I'd mentioned, it's beyond words and phrases. There was a story in which there was a master and a disciple, and the disciple could not get past to see what was going. But so he went with another master, and at the suggestion of his master, and returned with a realization of what mind was. And when he came back to his master, and he entered his quarters, he saw his master reading a scroll. And so he's holding the scroll and reading it. And the disciple said to the master, "You're searching for the meaning of this in the words that are printed on the page, when the answer is 4 feet beyond the scroll." We study, but when we study, we have to contemplate. What is contemplation? Contemplation is reading, it is using your heart to see things without thinking. And this is the key in terms of transitioning to mind work, is contemplation. Contemplation is stopping this mind that desires continuation. We stop it, and we are here in the stillness of this present moment. So much activity happening in the present moment, but in the stillness of the mind, it's able to understand everything. It's able to take in all of this information, yet simply contemplate it. This is a key to our practice. When we sit to meditate, we contemplate the method. We don't see the method. Gilbert is not looking at the method. Mind is looking at the method. Mind is looking at Gilbert. Gilbert cannot see the mind, but mind can see Gilbert. Mind can see Gilbert, therefore he can see what Gilbert is looking at. Mind sees clearly that all of this is an appearance. It's not real. It is something temporary, anicca, impermanent. There is no suffering there if we see things in this way. So when we see it in this way, we also see from impermanence and no suffering, there's no self. This is Chan. This is Buddhism, the three existences. Very, very easy. But we read it on the page. I'm reading. Okay, that's very good. The Diamond Sutra, I'm reading. Yet we never stop to contemplate. We never stop to say, what does that mean? What does that mean? So we only have a book learning aspect of it. We do not have an ability to see it very clearly. So it's difficult for us to practice in this way. And if we practice in this way, we can sit for kalpas of time, and we'll never get it, because we want to make Gilbert enlightened. We want him to walk hand in hand with the Buddha. Yet it's very interesting, because we go back again to the Diamond Sutra. So I guess today is Diamond Sutra Day. And in the Diamond Sutra, the Buddha is speaking to Subhuti, and Subhuti is his main disciple with respect to wisdom. And in the sutra, he says, "What do you think, Subhuti? Can the Buddha be known by his 32 marks?" These 32 marks, I'm not sure if you know what they are. I think a lot of you do. Some of you may not know. It would be like webbed fingers, this pearlescent skin, of the wand symbol on him, this curly hair, the top knot, all these different things that say, okay, if you see this, you're looking at a genuine Buddha. But more than likely, you're looking at a genuine Buddha statue. And so when you see this, we think, okay, this is kind of what we would call a reward body. Is it real? Is it real? So if you went to the Buddha, could you touch the Buddha? Oh, yeah, I can see it's dazzling, having great aura around him. Is this real? And the Buddha said, no, he cannot be known by these 32 marks. If he could be known by these 32 marks, he would not be the Buddha. What is happening here is what is reflected in many sutras, the Maha Prajnaparamita Sutra of Manjusri, another proponent for wisdom, that all of these are appearances. They're not real. In the Maha Prajnaparamita Sutra, something was made very clear. Why do we say this? So that we can clarify for practitioners, so they can see clearly that this world is just appearances, just like the Diamond Sutra, but a little bit more clear. And something that was said in that sutra that was very important is that there is a fear. We say these things to people to allow them to overcome the fear of what they may perceive to be the annihilation of of themselves. Yet the Diamond Sutra, in a continual refrain throughout it, it says there is no personality, no ego, no life and being. It's reflecting this very, very clearly. All the sutras are interlocked. They're just different ways of presenting the same information of the three existences, of seeing things clearly, of understanding that this is pratika samuppada, causes and conditions. And we see this and we see how it plays out. When we see the world in this way, when we meditate, we can do mind work. If not, we're just sitting there kind of parking our bottom on the cushion and hoping for the best. But it will not work that way, because we're still sitting with the ego. Quite to the contrary, as I mentioned, mind sees the ego, mind sees the method. And in fact, where is this occurring? Where does the mind see this? If we're using mind rather than the ego to look at it, where is the ego and the ego's holding on to the method appearing? Mind. So we have, let's see if the board is dried now. We have this where we will project the method. The method is appearing on this mind. what is seeing it? We think that there's an I here, I'll put a G, that Gilbert is looking at the method. The method has to be projected on something, so it's projected on mine. But it's not this way. Mind is looking at Gilbert, looking at the method projected on mind. So some of you who have heard me speak before, what we have is a mind sandwich. So whatever appears here, we're clear is projected upon mind and is seen by mind. So when we see things in this way, it's different. We talk about the Tathagata, and the Tathagata is, Tathagata Garbha is the mind. And in Chinese, we talk about Ru Zi, pardon me for my poor pronunciation, and Ru Jing. The Ru Zi is the knowing aspect of mind, this part here. The Ru Jing is the mind ground where everything appears. These two are not separate. They're one and the same. There's no duality to them. They are just mind. When we sit and practice in the proper way, we're just sitting in mind. The cushion is mine. The body is mine. The method is mine. What is seeing the method, this awareness, this contemplation is mine. Not only that, but all that appears there, because we're going to get things that will appear in the mind. Oh. So we have a shiny blue car, money, love, hate. All of these things will be coming and going, coming and going, coming and going as you're watching the method. Now, in the improper way of practicing, we want to eliminate these. We don't want to see these. We want these to go away. So we fix our mind in an unnatural way to avoid those things, to push them out of the mind. I don't want to see those. I just want to see the method. That's not the way it works. We cannot walk through life and as we're walking in our environment, say, you with a bad attitude, out. You over here who's laughing, you're disturbing me, out. You doing this, okay. All right, you have a bill, no, out, right? But when they come and say, you have to pay the bill, you just go out. And they go, what do you mean out? It doesn't work that way. If you use your cell phone, you have to pay for it. So pay the bill. No, out. That's unnatural. Doesn't make any sense. Why would you expect when you sit to meditate that all these things are going to disappear? They're naturally appearing within mind. Naturally there. We only have to use the root zit, this knowing mind, to know that they have arisen in mind. We do not look at them. This is not the time for us to know how am I going to pay my cell phone bill or whatever it is. I'm sure people have more serious problems than a cell phone bill. But how are we going to pay it? No, it's the time just to sit to contemplate. You're contemplating holding the method. If you're using silent illumination, it's even easier because it's just a mind sandwich with no bologna in the middle. Not bad. It's just simply there. Boom, like this. Oh, look. This makes sense now. We call the inquiry into matching halves. Not bad. All of this stuff begins to make sense once you begin to look at it with right view. Without right view, we cannot make any sense of what is happening because we're tied to the idea of placating this personality, ego, or life and being. When we let go of that, then the world becomes eminently easier to do. Oh, but it doesn't mean that your body has a free pass. You know, it's free of pain, it's free of this, but it could be free of suffering. There's a difference. You can have pain, and pain hurts. Believe me, from my own experiences this year, I've had pain that I would not wish on an enemy. But I, in city, knew it was going to pass. If I didn't die, then eventually the pain would pass, but I could deal with it. I did not have the suffering. If I suffered, then it was even greater pain, amplified pain. But if not, it's just seeing things as they are. And you see that very clearly. It's just a dream. But mind is there. And I'm getting the cue to have you ask questions. And of my 8 pages of presentation today, I got through 2 1/4. So we're going to have to continue on with this. But this is the way Chan is. There's no beginning and no end to it. And as Ling Chi said, thank you for listening. I'll put an end to the silly talk now and have you ask some questions.
Sorry to interrupt. So we're going to allow people to unmute themselves and ask questions. Or if you can raise hand, and we will go by order. So, and I actually have a question, Gilbert. When you were talking about mind, looking at mind, using method, the method is projected on mind. So it seems like we're using, during the practice, we're using the second thought to see the first thought and then contemplate, and because you're seeing that you're using the method, and then you're also trying to see I guess all the other thoughts that could happen in the mind ground. So I guess my question is, in the beginning, is it normal that we are practicing in such a way that we're just using the second thought to see what's happening? We're trying to catch up to the first. I guess you can never catch up the first thought. Can you explain a little bit?
Yes, actually, your question is one that is very, very deep. And I recently in my Monday night class was talking about this from a very high level Dochen master. Dochen is a Tibetan practice, very similar to Chan. And it is very important distinction here that we do not use the second thought to look at the first thought. If we use the second thought to look at the first thought, thinking that we're illuminating the first thought, we're not illuminating the second thought, because the second thought is also ego. It comes from ego. And so we cannot see things in this way. So we say, oh, I'm so enlightened, I can see my thoughts. Even by that response, one sees the fallacy in saying something like that. So we do not use thought to look at thought. Thought is thought. We use mind to contemplate thought. So when we use mind to contemplate thought, we are simply in mind with Wu-Yen, no thought, looking at mind. And if it has the method, we are also aware that other thoughts will arise within it. But we see all of those thoughts in what we call a state of equanimity, of equipoise. So all of those thoughts are observed. We give them no greater or lesser value. We are just via the mind's own awareness are aware of it. So we do not use another thought to look at the thought. It's very, very important. And I kind of have to speed through that because I was coming up with that a little bit later on in my lecture, which we didn't get to. So it's difficult because to try to put this into you, I wish I could just program it in like a software installation, but it doesn't work that way. But your question is an excellent question. I thank you for it because it's important clarification. You do not use a second thought or a subsequent thought. That's why the master said that we have to sever this mind that desires continuation. The only thing that continues is the contemplation of mind. So very good.
Thank you.
Very good question.
So Mark has a question.
Okay.
Gilbert, this is Mark. My question is simpler than Angela. When you're talking about the contemplating during your lecture, you are stated using the heart seeing without the thinking. In the actual practice, can you give us a sample? Okay, this is a contemplating. This is another contemplating. So when we practice, we can have some practical guideline instead of, okay, contemplating, but sometimes we may not able to distinguish this is not contemplating by using the actual sample.
Very, very well. And there's an easy answer to that actually one of my longtime students, for a while he was short-time student, but now he's a long-time. I don't know if Robert's here or not, but he picked that up very quickly. And that's that anything that moves is thought. Anything that moves is an appearance. So what we want to connect to is what's called the immutable. Immutable means that which does not change, that which was never born, never created. It is this which is mind, and this is which is the mind ground. So both the knowing aspect of mind and the mind ground never change. That is why pratika samapada, cause and conditions, they never fail because it's immutable. It is just in this way. So anything that arises in mind, anything that moves is thought. It's an appearance. So if you're there and you use your discernment from the perception of mind, not from the perception of the five skandha, but we use the discernment, this some may call wisdom, to see that the mind has moved, then we know that this is not something that we cling to. We do not push it out. We just simply are aware of it. And this awareness by its own nature will sweep it out. And there's a stillness there. We don't have to wait and try to see a broom. What it sweeps is it something that projects up that we may consider to be substantial. But substantial and insubstantial, like in Tai Chi, they're the same thing. They're matching halves. They're appearing and non-appearing, or the potentiality of thought. All of that, nevertheless, is just simply mind. We let it go because we know it's mind. We don't have to do anything with it. We just let it go. An important point, I may bring this up later on, is that, and this is something for you to contemplate, is it is said that the Buddhas use the vexations of sentient beings to practice. The Buddhas use the vexations of sentient beings to practice. Contemplate that. Don't think about it, contemplate it. It's a very good door for entry.
Next,
Thank
we
you.
have Mei Li.
You're welcome. Yes, Mei Li. Go ahead. Amitofu. I can see her. I heard something.
Finally, myself. Just thank you very much. I feel that I was sitting in the Chan Hall, and then just one of the Dharma talk is very touching my mind. And my question is about following Angela's question and that your answer. You're saying that using the second thought to think of the first thought. And I'm contemplating the picture that there's Gilbert looking at the mind, and there's another mind, and looking at it as a whole. And it reminds me of your very first teaching at Toronto that's about the cat and the mouse. So it's very similar kind of notion. And I think my question still, and when in the you are talking about to look inward, and however in that diagram it's very easy to get confused, because sometimes our mind tend to have a habit to perceptualize, to have a concept of what the mind is talking about, even the very last one. And when the mind starts to do that, it is not really looking inward. So I see sometimes I have some difficulty in that, and I have suspicion I was not using, I was not practicing the method incorrectly. So I would like to, I'm not sure if you know my struggle. So I'm hoping that you could give me some or more clarity as how I can make sure that I'm really using the method correctly instead of kind of cheating myself.
Yes, it's a good question. And by the way, the question so far been excellent. The idea is, because what we're doing is we're trying to put this doctrine into the practice, using what we call the principle into the practice. And this idea of when we're sitting to meditate, we have to be aware when the mind is moving. When we get this right, when it gets dialed in the right way, and you're sitting, it can take you no less than 5 minutes to get into a samadhi state, a very good samadhi state. You know, if I'm sitting just right, I can do it almost instantaneously. But that comes with time and to knowing just to set it down. And then the mind already knows where to go. It's like following the groove on the record. The needle just naturally falls. It doesn't skip around. It just follows. And so what we're trying to do is follow that groove on the record with the needle. So the needle is the contemplation. So we understand that there's no thinking. Whatever appearances come up, they're naturally appearing. This is very important for us to do. Do not follow them, but do not chase them out. Just simply sit with contemplation. The same way we do direct contemplation sometimes at retreats, where you sit and you watch something. So here, when we were talking about the cat and mouse one, where you're sitting there by the hole and you're looking at the mouse that comes out, which are thoughts, and we're aware of it. What we progress to after that is watch the cat. Don't watch the mouse, watch the cat. So this is what we think is the ego, but we're actually turning the mind's eye inward so that we are not deceived that what we're doing is actually mind work, when we're actually just suppressing thought. We don't want to suppress thought. Wu Yen is not suppression of thought. Wu Yen is allowing the thoughts to rise and fall, but making sure that we're aware of the thought. The ancient said the crime is not in the thought arising. It is in not knowing soon enough that the thought has arisen, because then that becomes a subsequent thought. If we catch the thoughts as they're arising, then the mind is aware of it. It's just like clouds, as we're sitting to meditate and the clouds are passing by. passing by, passing by. We don't have to pay any attention to them. We just simply maintain contemplation. It's not easy because in the beginning, it's like a fire hose of thoughts coming up, or some kind of a 4th of July celebration with so many fireworks going up. But we have to sit and endure it and be able to understand with a faith that if we sit with contemplation, watching the cat, we're watching the cat, watching the phenomena, it will go away. There's a peace and a stillness there that is naturally mine. The thing about it is you all have it already. There's nothing I can give you, not one thing that I can give you that will change anything. You already have it. All you got to do is practice it in the right way. Master Ling Chi, at the closing of his treatise, he said, now you all have it. You all have it. So when you need to use it, use it. When you don't need to use it, don't use it. Very simple. Chan is incredibly, incredibly simple. And we begin with this way. I guarantee you, I promise you, if you use this in the right way, you will get into a deep samadhi. And I'm very mindful of the karma. And if I'm incorrect about this, may I go to a Viki hell, and each day they cut my tongue out if I'm not correct about this. I'm very serious about this. I'm not going to say something like that unless I know that this is the path, the way. What is the path? There is no way, there is no path. It is just mine. And when you sit in this way with the faith in that, you have the faith in the Dharma, the faith in the Buddha, the faith in the Sangha, but you have to have faith in your own Buddha mind. That is the most important when you see it in this way. And then you will make the connection with it.
Thank you.
Questions?
Ted raised his hand.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the talk. I had one question. It kind of is like watching the cat, watching the mouse. So one of the things I've noticed in my personal experience is that oftentimes I observe, I'll have a thought like, gee, something really favorable has happened at work. This is going to be great. And then I find myself observing that and saying, I'm watching myself being deluded. I know this isn't going to last. And so, what do I do with stuff like that? I spend so much time just kind of going, gee, here is Ted having another mind delusion, and I'm just watching my delusions like it's an amusing thing.
Okay. The Chinese have probably one of the most often quoted saying the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. That's a step. I mean, where before you'd just be going around going, wow, everything's really good. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, hooray. And then you go, what do you mean I'm fired? What do you mean this or whatever it is that happened? And you don't know, what happened. Here you say, don't get too happy here, because when you get too happy, then all of a sudden things can turn around on you very easily. This is good. This is mindful of impermanence. Not bad. You're mindful of the ego, not bad. So when you see this, you're mindful that there could be suffering. Not bad. All of this is a practice. And you just generate it, and you look, who is saying this? Who is happy? Who is doing all of this? And so you're very careful. Once I saw Master Sheng Yen before a retreat, and I stopped him and I said, Shifu, I've been practicing, and I really have this joy in my heart when I practice, and I feel so good when I practice. And Shifu, he just nodded. It was very funny because most of the time you need translators, but sometimes when I talked to Shifu, he knew exactly what I was saying. He could speak perfect English. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. And so I was walking away from him and with this kind of a joy in me. And all of a sudden he calls my name, Gilbert. And so I turn around and he looks at me and he goes, don't be too joyful. And so this is what you're doing. You're not being too joyful. Not bad. Not bad. This is good. This is the practice. So you need to contemplate that. Who is feeling this? Who is doing this? No. Sometimes I say this saying, what is the question? What is the question? It is not a question that I'm saying. It is the answer. What? You have to always ask what the question is, or what's this? What's that? What's this? What? What is appearing? And so when you have a question, that is the answer. You always are questioning appearances until one day that the appearances you do not cling to. You see them arising. Not easy for me. But this is our practice. So the practice is the question. So instead of saying, what is the question? Or what's the question? No, it is the answer. Use that and it will be very helpful to you.
Do we have
No
any
more?
questions? So, oh, okay. Simon, please go ahead.
Hi. I hope I don't run over time, but hi, Gilbert. I had a question on going back to what you said earlier in the discussion about responsibility. You sort of balanced that with the middle way part of it, but I was just wondering if there is any room in our belief and right view for sort of like grace or something that's out of control, out of our control. Like I think I've heard it where in practices, you're not trying to achieve any special state of mind or enlightenment even. You just sort of sit there and it's kind of like a cat that sort of just serendipitously like crawls up into your lap, I guess when I hear that, it sounds like there's so much that's out of my control and maybe even on my responsibility. And my responsibility is really just to show up, you know what I mean? And so I think for me, I'm just the question is like, is there any element of that, that there's that grace part of it where I'm not, responsible 100% for going an inch or going 5 feet or going a mile? Like, it's kind of out of my control. And I guess, I don't know if I worded the question right, but I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, very interesting. Your self is very, very clever. It produces this kind of like a way of washing its hands of all of the appearances and all the things that are there, but it is not in this way. We see very clearly that there's a responsibility. If it not be that way, then we would not have the Eightfold Path or the 6 paramitas, or the 37 factors of enlightenment. We are not automatons where we just simply follow the fate or karma or whatever. There is a practice. Now, this path that we follow is just simply the path of mind, of exploring mind. And as we begin to practice this, the more we practice in this way, the clearer the mind becomes. And we understand that mind is always presented with choices. We can choose via ignorance in anything that we do. And so, but we do not simply just allow things to happen happenstance. It doesn't work that way. We still have to, even if we get on the boat to cross to the other side, we have to paddle. And so it is this paddling that essentially makes the other side disappear, makes the boat disappear, makes the self disappear. And where are you left at? Just in this present moment. So we choose the Buddha, not ignorance. And so when we see things in this way, via contemplation. Little by little, you'll begin to understand that. And the questions that you raise, you will see that this is the way in which things happen. We are not deluded by the appearances, nor are we deluded with thinking that if we put our head in the sand like an ostrich, that the things are going to disappear. We still have to paddle. We still have to work. So what I would suggest to you, Simon, is just keep paddling, keep going. The questions that you raise in terms of this, they're natural. They're natural in terms of somebody that's a practitioner. Let them come up, but contemplate the answer. Do not seek them in some kind of a verbal response.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so looks like there's no further questions. So thank you, Gilbert, for giving us a...
Sorry, there's one here, a raised hand.
Oh, someone raise hand?
Yeah. Go ahead. Can we ask a question?
Sure.
Okay.
Hi, Gilbert. Thank you for the talk. I just had a quick one sentence answer, one sentence question, which is, what is the difference between contemplation and thinking?
Good. And we didn't get to that point in terms of that. You know, and it's kind of like, where do we start? We talk about contemplation, we talk about these things, and then we don't have enough time to put it all in one time. But little by little over the series that I'm going to go over, we'll go into it in more detail. But contemplation is which observes, is aware of arisings in the mind. Thinking cannot be aware of that simply because it is a thought. And it is, as a thought, it is just an appearance. There is nothing there. There's nothing in the physical body that can make you think. It is why the Master Ling Chi said, ask your liver to listen to the Dharma. Ask your stomach to present the Dharma to you. It is, all of these are appearances. The contemplation is this direct experience or gnosis of mind itself. We're not very good at it when we first start. It's going to take you time. If I could do this and everybody go, okay, contemplation, you would go, why didn't I think about that? I could have been enlightened many, many years ago. But it doesn't work that way. You have to still walk that walk, okay? And so it just takes time to sit. The big key here is that anything that moves is an appearance. So when you're sitting in meditation, what we're doing is we're observing everything that's appearing. We know that's phenomenal, but we're observing it from the noumenon, from mind itself. And this mind is knowing, but not in the sense of the perceptions of the five skandha, but mind has its own perception. And that's what you're tapping into. It's not going to be easy for you to do it, but little by little, as you begin to practice, and I very strongly recommend that you begin to contemplate as you sit to meditate. And so that when you do that, and then we come back at the end, you say, I've been doing this and this, and this comes up or whatever, then I can guide you. This is a good time for you all to have me adjust your meditation. That's what this is all about, is getting this just right, getting you to go to right view. And if you can go to right view, that's good. So be patient. Contemplation will come in its time with you, but you just have to kind of like have this rough gauge that if it's moving, it's a thought. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if there's no further questions, we will thank Gilbert. Thank you for giving us such a profound talk on Chan 101. Makes me feel like I really want to go back to retreats, and I'm sure a lot of people feel the same. So let's join palm and bow.